We're crying.
God damn.
This episode was so good. And I think if you didn't cry watching it,
what the fuck is wrong with you?
You have no heart.
Bones really blew it out of the park with this, because this is like probably one of my favorite arcs. If not my favorite arc.
And I mean, like the press conference scene, like that chapter 73 is like, honestly, I mean, aside from chapter 100, like is my favorite chapter in the entire manga.
Just the ending, just like, and they did it so well. Yeah. Like everything.
We should probably start going through things in kind of more of a chronological order, but we don't have much to say about the beginning.
Yeah.
But it was really well done, like, you know, Reagan being on TV. He's so nervous. He wants to do a good job.
He did.
And I think I realized that just, like, reading through this part of the manga before this episode, like, when he introduces himself, he's like, hi everybody, I'm Reagan Arataka, and the way he kind of like stumbles over his words is so cute. He's just a nervous boy.
He wants to do well.
He wants to do a good job.
He thinks the thing is, like, and we kind of talk about this later, is like Reagan going into like the talk show thinks he has all the cards in his hands, because he usually goes into every situation like that. Yeah. And even if he doesn't, he can more than likely than not talk his way out of it. Mm-hmm. There's only been a very few instances where he wasn't able to, and so he's not expecting like Jodo to be like, I'm gonna fuck you up, like, because Reagan doesn't know what the fuck he did to this guy.
Right. Or he doesn't know that he would hold it against him, because he was just like helping him, to be honest.
Right. Like, yeah, like, can you imagine you're upset somebody kicked you, but not because you were possessed. Yeah. Like, fuck off, Jodo. Jodo has no rights.
Jodo go to hell challenge.
Jodo go to hell challenge.
Die, bitch.
Right. So...
Yeah. I think like the whole thing on TV, I really felt the secondhand embarrassment. I think like in the manga reading it, I didn't really get the like intense secondhand embarrassment of it, but seeing it adapted, it came across a little more clearly when they were like, okay, it's been 30 minutes and he's still doing this exorcism. That was rough.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think I felt the secondhand embarrassment more so in the manga when it got to the part where he was like trying to defend himself online. Yeah. And I was like, Reagan, stop.
Reagan.
Sorry. Reagan, stop. Like, you're making it worse.
And then he gets exposed, and I think they conveyed like the mood so perfectly with a few things they did. They kind of showed him like all skewed and kind of, I don't know how to explain that. Bless you.
Thank you.
And it's an interesting scene because he knew that it was fake.
Right.
And I think he just wasn't really I think he was just too shocked to like talk his way out of it.
Right. Well, like, and he really thought everyone else was like on his side. Like, he figured out, oh, it's a script. Like, he realized right away the kid's probably not possessed. Yeah. But like, and he was like, everyone else is in on it. He didn't realize that was gonna be like his downfall, and that's what they were using against him. Yeah. So, and because of that, he wasn't able to talk his way out of it. And like you were saying, they really got the emotions just really funnily like out really well.
His head is spinning around.
Yeah, like just like that. And like when he's like
the most distinct mood.
Yeah. And when he was like, oh really, what ghost was he? He's like, I think it's German, and he's like, stop talking, Reagan.
Don't
and he's
say
like,
another word. That's Reagan's constant internal monologue is like,
shut up, stop
please
talking.
Shut up.
And then he's like, Beethoven.
Like, and then the dun 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 definitely came across like a lot more clearly in the anime. Like, honestly, I didn't even get that he was trying to do the dun 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 dun.
Oh, really?
When I was reading it, I was just like, I thought it was more like a dun 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 thing.
Oh,
I didn't get that
I
it was supposed to be
too.
like the actual Beethoven. Like,
I think I got that too.
I'm a dumbass, so.
No, it's okay. I think I read it as like dun dun dun. Like,
yeah, I read it as more like a dun 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 thing than a dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
Dun 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 dun.
Which is funny.
But can't wait to listen back to that part of me saying that over and over again. And I also think, like, just hearing in the anime, like, everyone laughing at him just came across, like, so much more sad than just, like, kind of reading, like, laughter sound effects. It's just like, oh no, he's just being humiliated on live TV. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it'd be like that.
It'd be like that sometimes.
A thing that was really funny about like the fallout is Ritsu and Teru are like two of his biggest believers.
Yeah.
Especially Ritsu, because like Ritsu wasn't a Reagan fan until recently.
Yeah. He wasn't a Reagan stan.
He wasn't a Reagan stan.
To be fair, though, Ritsu doesn't have, like, the best judgment of characters.
Oh, yeah,
like,
Ritsu's a dumbass.
Ritsu's, like, peak, like, I'm good in school, but I'm a dumbass on the streets.
He has no sense.
He doesn't, and I love him so much. And, like, and I think, because we were kind of talking about this, and I think it kind of happened after, like, the 1,000%, like, gratitude thing with Reagan. Mm-hmm. And Mob at the Claw Division fight when Ritsu was like, oh, well, and even
like,
then,
oh, is he for real?
Yeah. But even then, like, whether or not Ritsu believes Reagan's a fraud or not, I think you can kind of tell Ritsu, like, understands he's important to his brother.
Yeah, although I think that he does, like, literally think that he's a psychic.
Yeah, he probably does.
Because he saw him, like, use...
Yeah, that's
as
true.
Far as he knows, he saw him use, like, crazy powers.
Yeah,
so he's like, and Teru saw it too, so they're both just like, oh, okay. Yeah. He's real. Yeah. I thought it was also sad that, like, Reagan did have a few people that were, like, rooting for him and worrying about him. Aww. But he felt so alone because none of them, like, reached out to him, obviously, because I don't think, like, Teru has his phone number. But, like, send him a quick text, like, are you doing okay, man?
Right. Like, Kim, and even, like, the two guys from the Awakening Lab, like, who really look up to Reagan, too. Like, because they're like Grandmaster Reagan and all this stuff.
Those two. Yeah, those two kids. I mean, what are their names?
Go Hoshino? And
Go Asaki.
Yeah,
and Hoshino.
I think so. Like I can't remember their names.
Those those kids.
Yeah, those kids. Those crazy kiddos. Kids. I mean, there's something to be said that his OnlyFans are kids.
Yeah.
His only supporting staff is kids.
They believe in... And, I mean, Shinra to an extent. Shinra's more just like, oh no, Reagan.
Yeah, Shinra's more like the embarrassment part of it, yeah.
I've publicly associated with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, I've been publicly associated with you. Please stop this. This is bad for my business as well. Yeah. And then...
I like the scene with... Mob and Inukawa a lot because it shows that Mob does still really believe in him. Like he's confronted with this, with the idea that Reagan's a fraud in like such a direct way in this arc.
Yeah.
And it doesn't faze him at all.
Yeah.
And they showed, I think in the anime, they showed it a little more clearly than in the manga, like his kind of thought process of like, oh, he said he needs to get more popular to like break into other like media platforms, so he's just doing this so he'll like be on TV and stuff. And so he's like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and like I think Mob just has like so much trust within Reagan, like and like we talk a lot about like does he know or is he like in denial and like subconsciously he knows. And like he just like even with all that, and I think this arc really shows that whether or not he knows or not, or knows that he's a fraud or not, doesn't really matter because of how much trust Mob does have in him. Yeah. Yeah, which we'll touch on the end scene.
Another thing from this episode was they had another email from Reagan's mom, which was from an onomake that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
And a lot of people that even had read the manga like thought that it was a new scene because I don't know, it just wasn't.
There's a lot of omakes that haven't been translated or are like widely available either. So
or just don't like make it into where people typically read it online.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an anime original scene, but I really liked that Bones chose to include this. Because it gave a lot of weight to, like, how Reagan's feeling. Like, he, like, printed out the apology. He, like, really thought this was the end of his dreams and of his life. He's just, like, going to the execution, like, okay.
Right.
I'll just try and, you know.
Right. No, I agree.
Accept my fate.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, you can kind of feel that, like, with that scene, too, like, Reagan feels like he's at a dead end. He feels alone. He, like, goes to, like, his friend, he thinks is his friends at the bar, and it's like, you guys need to help me with this, but they don't.
Yeah, and even
well, because they feel used by him, too.
Which is, like, that's kind of what he was doing.
Yeah, and I mean, that is what he was doing, but, like, Reagan, and that's why Reagan kind of doesn't feel like, oh, I can't believe everyone, ditched me like this. I feel like he feels more like I really did miss everybody. Like I kind of deserve this.
Yeah, like I've made my bed now.
Right.
Now I'll lie in it.
Right, exactly. So he does,
Yeah, so, he just blames himself.
Right, exactly. He really does.
Which is, I mean, it is somewhat his fault.
His fault, but also
to an extent. but
it's gone. But also, it's like gone on for so long, and Jodo's like hand in it doesn't really help.
There are elements that are way beyond what he actually deserves.
Exactly.
Like he deserves like Mob to kind of like
be like
break up with him for a bit.
Yeah.
He deserved that, but he doesn't really deserve this public humiliation.
Right. So then we go into the press conference scene. Oh, well, wait, can we talk about the cutaway? The cutaway was so good.
Oh, the cutaway was so cool. I screamed.
Yeah, so the cutaway like shows like the TVs of like everything, and then when it comes back, it just clicks to like the table, and it was just, oh my god.
Oh, it was so cool.
It just like gives you such a like when you know what's gonna happen, but like it gives you such a feeling. You're like, wow.
Yeah, I think like having read the manga, and this is probably just because I don't care about spoilers that much, and I enjoy things usually the second or third or fourth or 10th time that I've read or watched them. So for me, like watching the season, having read the manga, I think only like enhances my experience because I know it's gonna come, and like the anticipation like leading up to my favorite parts is just like,
and I think it gives really you like different feelings. Like I feel like people who have read the manga is like that anticipation, and then people who are anime only feel like a sort of
more
dread.
The surprise.
And
surprise,
like,
which I think would be really cool to experience, that like not knowing where it's going would be cool to experience with this, but I think I'd rather take the just like sort of like knowing what's coming but like wanting to see how they're gonna do it.
Exactly. I get that. So goes into the press conference scene.
I'm so glad the scene was like fully 10 minutes long, because it's just I thought it was probably going to be like the second half of the episode, and it's so good. They gave it all the time that it deserved, and this arc in general. I mean, there's very little that they actually cut out of it, which I'm glad about.
They could have easily I was going to say they could have easily smushed this into one episode, but they would be cutting out a lot.
I don't know if they really could have, because I think they needed to build up. Bless you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm a little sick.
To build up a little bit more like weight to it by having it into 2 episodes.
I agree.
And it's like one of the only times that we get like real character development for Reagan.
And that's the thing, is like Reagan up to this point has been a pretty static character, especially if you're looking at just the anime side of it. I feel like because Reagan, I mean, Maude at this point has been growing a lot. He's becoming more bolder. He's becoming more confident in like his like own aspects.
He's growing with like showing his emotions and using his powers.
Exactly. So he's finally standing up to Reagan. So like when I was first reading through this, I noticed that right away. Like, wow, Maude is really growing up a lot, and Reagan's not. So this whole arc really makes Reagan like step back and be like, shit, I'm the one who needs to grow up.
Like Reagan needs to catch up with him, because he's been like outgrown by him.
He has, like emotionally speaking, and just like he's not the Reagan needs to realize, and he does in this arc, that he's not the same little boy that like came into his office scared and alone,
because he still sees him that way. And I mean, even like I shouldn't even try to talk about chapter 100, but like he still kind of sees him that way.
Even after this arc, he still kind of
because like that's still he still feels like that kind of responsibility. I think
Well, and I think Reagan really loves feeling that responsibility for Maude. That gives him like a sense of life.
I mean, okay, so like that's what this is about, is because he wants to be somebody, but he wants to be somebody to Maude.
Yes, exactly. So when he realizes Maude has other people in his life besides Reagan, unrealistic.
He's like, no, I'm supposed to be the only, like, that's the only thing that gives my life meaning, is that I'm somebody to you.
He's extremely dependent on Maude, but at the same time, he's an extremely extroverted person where he needs to be around other people.
Yeah, which is definitely shown when he's lonely and he like goes to the bar, because he just like needs to be around people. Which is like same. And oh my god, like this, it's just so good. But I think before, like, we're gonna try and kind of go through the scene somewhat chronologically.
I was just thinking
and then I was like, oh my god.
I know.
But I guess just kind of how he goes up on stage, and then he's immediately just like, fuck this.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I gotta be nice to them, and then immediately is like, fuck this shit.
Yeah, he's just immediately is like
really pissed off.
Just gets mad, which is great. I love it. I love how he kind of tries to fight back, like he's gonna go down swinging. he knows he's going down, but he's gonna put up a fight while he can.
Yeah, he's like really sick of it at this point, which is fair because he has had this press like stalking him out of his fucking apartment, so that makes sense.
Oh, you can really just feel like just his anger and like how just like fed up he is.
Yeah.
And then like the middle school essay thing is really when the like emotional part of this hits.
Yeah.
And I've always been really kind of fixated on that because I'm like, who leaked his essay? Like one of his teachers?
Right.
Like, who does that?
Right.
It's so cruel to like use his like youthful optimism and ambition and like twist it and use it against him like that.
Right, which is ridiculous because it's like he was a child in middle school, but the thing is that like really hits Reagan himself because he's like, shit, I have always just wanted to be. And
he hasn't really thought about his own motivations in a long time because I don't think Reagan is someone who ever really stops and thinks. He's not an introspective person.
He's not.
Which is why when Mob like left him last episode and he was alone, when he just immediately had like an identity crisis because he hasn't thought about where he is in life for really like 3 years.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like for the last 3 years. His whole identity has been Mob's master.
Yeah, he's just been kind of swimming along, like not really thinking about where he's going or what he's doing and not changing. So like to all of a sudden be kind of forced to be by himself and to work on himself and change is like a scary and really difficult thing.
It is. And then they did a really amazing thing where they went call back to the moth light scene where he threw up in the alleyway and just like the ding of like the light bulb shining and just
using that as kind of like a motif to call back to that earlier scene was a really good touch.
That was amazing.
I really gasped.
Yeah, I did too. That's
what a gasp sounds like.
Is that what you were like?
Yeah,
it was really good.
And just like changed the entire tone of that scene in a way that I think the manga didn't completely convey. Like the panel in the manga was just sort of Reagan with like a black backdrop.
Yeah.
And I don't think it really got the same like weight across of like how much this has really shifted like what this scene is about.
Yeah.
But then we get that flashback.
Oh my god. So I've been looking forward to this since the PV drop because I noticed right away in the PV, I think in the first one they used like when Reagan pops up, they used the same exact face from like the flashback and I was like, wait a sec. And then they showed like I sent it to you on Mob's like shoulder and I was like, wait a sec. And I was like, they're showing the flashback again.
Yeah, and I didn't know that it had been confirmed. Apparently in an interview with the director, like after season 1, they confirmed that they had used the flashback earlier because if they didn't get a season 2, they really wanted to do that scene.
Which makes sense.
And I really like how they used it.
Yeah.
In the anime.
Yeah, me too.
And then they said, if we do get a season 2, we'll do the same flashback, but from Reagan's perspective.
And I think that really...
was a great choice.
I think it was an amazing choice. Like, oh god. The entire flashback scene with Reagan's point of view... It's fairly similar to everything from the first flashback, but you get more so like Reagan doesn't think he gives good advice on purpose. Like he's like, I'm just gonna throw some shit to this kid. He's probably has like too much of an imagination. He doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, because that's what's really, I think his internal monologue is so important to understanding this scene.
Yeah.
Because Reagan didn't try to give good advice.
He does, yeah.
He was literally just like, I'm just gonna say some like generic shit to get this kid to go home.
Right. But then he kind of realizes like Mob's like hanging on like every word he has. Yeah. And he kind of realizes Mob probably doesn't have anybody else to talk to about that.
And he likes having someone that looks up to him like this because I mean at first it probably just like stokes his ego a little bit,
right?
But it's like he can be somebody,
right. That's the thing. I know he can be somebody to like Mob
to one person,
right? And like Reagan alone realizes that, like, and they go back to the paint on glass, and it goes into color just like in the ending of season 1. Mob gives color to Reagan's life, and I'm gonna kill myself, like.
Oh my god.
And just like he wanted to grasp onto something.
He wanted to grasp onto something. That's one of my favorite lines in this whole thing is like, I wanted to grab hold of something, or I wanted to grasp onto something too. It's just so poetic.
Yes.
On how they paired that with like the paint on glass of him like crouching down and looking at a little like 11-year-old mob. I was like
face to face, like on the same eye level, yes. And how he was inspired by him.
He was inspired by that boy from that moment on.
And I think
I looked up to him.
And I think the scene really shows how like Mob and Reagan's relationship goes like deeper than just a master and a student relationship, because they both they're not like, well, they're going away from being solely dependent on each other. Mob more so starting it, but like Mob helps Reagan just as much as Reagan helps Mob.
Oh yeah, they saved each other.
They really did. Like,
and they continue to save each other.
Reagan was very close to shutting down the business until Mob showed up, who not only helped his business in a business way, but also helped Reagan find his own footing again. Mm-hmm. And Mob does it again in this aspect.
Have purpose in his
Exactly.
life.
Mob helped Reagan find purpose in his life, and at the same time, Mob's entire outlook of life would be completely different if he didn't find Reagan.
I know.
Every serious conflict.
He needed someone like that.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my god. Fuck.
And then they did like a callback to the Claw 7th Division battle.
So this was so interesting because this wasn't in the anime. And I think because they used the flashback in both episode 11 in last season, and now they're using it again. I think that they wanted to kind of strengthen the parallels between those two scenes, because there are parallels, but they're not really in the manga. So I really liked this touch, because I think that like this is sort of Reagan's like Claw 7th Division. Like it's a situation that he can't run away from. He's facing it by himself.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, kind of in the way. And then in the way that Mob is like feels like he has to deal with it himself at Claw 7th Division, Reagan's like, I have to deal with this myself. But then Mob comes to rescue with him and gives him a chance to run away, just like Reagan did.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. It's really good.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, and I didn't really think about that honestly myself until I saw this callback, and then I was kind of trying to think more about those parallels, and it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
My God.
And I think it also kind of makes it clear because of the way that shot of the slash in the back of his suit is like when Reagan's kind of saying like, oh, like I said a terrible thing to him. I think it shows too that Reagan doesn't think that he's a good master.
Right.
He doesn't realize how much he's helped Mob, and that's his whole thing.
That's the thing. He doesn't think he's deserving of it.
He doesn't think he deserves Mob's like forgiveness or respect, really.
No.
He's always done what he thinks he should do,
right.
So he doesn't think of himself as being a good guy.
Yeah.
He's like, this is just the bare minimum.
Yeah, this is what an adult's
like,
supposed to do.
Like I'm the adult.
Sure
I'll
kids
deal
aren't
with this.
Fighting in like a bunch of terrorists. Like that's just a basic adult shit.
Or with the Mogami thing, where he's like, well, how could I have accepted money for this job? Like people got hurt. He doesn't think that he's doing something like morally. Like, he thinks he's just kind of doing what he's supposed to do.
Right. But, like, that stuff is, like, what really gets to Mob. Like, stuff like at the 7th Division when Reagan's like, you can run away. You are, like, a teenager. You don't have to fight these adults. Yeah. And, like, Mob, who's been blessed with these powers and up to that point, and even narratively you think he's about to use those powers and, like, beat everybody. He doesn't. And he can finally see that he doesn't have to use these powers for these reasons. And Reagan really helps him throughout that. Mm-hmm. And even next arc, we'll see, like, more so, like, with Reagan being like, I'm a terrible master. And, like, I know.
Don't make me think about that.
I know. Okay.
Oh, my God.
So then it goes
and then it goes into, you know, Mob, are you listening? I loved, I think, like, the pacing of this part was flawless. Just the way that they kind of made us wait for the gut punch and for the kind of like, you know, resolution of this part, how they had like the shot of the city and they kind of like zoomed in through the cameras.
Yeah.
And then you've grown up so much.
You know that? Just, okay, so.
Oh my, I didn't check into the translation of this, but in the manga, the
most of it just says
the translation is just "you have grown up."
Yeah.
So seeing the subtitle, "You've grown up so much," you know that,
and his little smirk and like his little head tilt. I feel like this really adds. Well, you kind of talked about this more.
Yeah. So I like went off about this on Tumblr because I just thought this was amazing because I do feel like the "You have grown up" panel. Well, I love it. It's a little bit emotionally like one-dimensional.
Yeah.
I think, but like the way that they animated this part with his little smile, the way he tilts his head down, it's just perfect. And I think like that, like I said, I didn't like look into like the Japanese, but he is kind of like from his, body language, it does seem like he's asking kind of like an affirmative, like, question like that. And it's kind of almost like self-deprecating because he's sort of like, oh, you already know, like, I don't need to tell you.
Right.
Like, he's recognizing it, but he's not saying it because he thinks, like, Mob doesn't already know.
Right, and I think that's what something Mob really needs to hear is, like, the affirmation that Reagan has seen him grow up. Because, like, in the last episode hearing, you haven't grown up at all.
Yeah, that hit him so hard.
Yeah, because
and
Mob
that was the part...
Right, but Mob's entire character is about him changing.
Yeah.
And he's been trying so hard to change.
So hard.
And so for his own master to say, you haven't grown up at all, really sucker punched him. But for Reagan to not only say, I know, not only say you've grown up so much, but to say, you know that, right? Like to kind of add that Mob needs to know that, like, he doesn't need to depend on Reagan so much. And Reagan's affirming this, like, you don't have to depend on me as
and
much
Reagan
as you
to
do.
say, like, I'm not... Like, you don't need my approval. Like,
right, exactly. You don't
you're
need
already
my approval.
enough.
Right,
and you've already grown up without me, like, affirming it or whatever.
Right.
But
and then Mob's like, all right, I guess I'll step in.
Yeah, Mob's like, okay, you've
right.
proven that you deserve my interference.
Yes. I guess I'll just fucking... Also, I feel like this is... When Mob, like, actually uses his powers to save Reagan's ass, I feel like it's pretty telling because Mob doesn't use his powers for stuff like this.
That's true. I mean, I guess sort of... He's been doing it more, like, with... like with Emmy.
Yeah.
How he's kind of using his powers.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So it's a gradual development
It
where
is
he's
a gradual development.
using his powers a little bit more to do things when he doesn't necessarily, like, have to, when it's not a life or death thing, or for work.
Which kind of, like, goes into, like, the very end of the series, too.
Yeah, but, like, his development is, like, very gradual over the course of the series.
Yeah, and that's
like,
what I
so
like.
much so that you barely notice it.
Right.
Which is, like, amazing fucking writing.
It is.
Like,
it is.
how do you, like, one,
right.
How do you do that?
No, Mob's character development is so gradual and so natural throughout the whole series.
You notice it when you all of a sudden kind of skip from the beginning to the end, but like step by step, every step is so natural and so small, but they all kind of lead into each other that you barely notice it, and it just kind of comes, like, it just feels like growing up.
Yeah, it's good writing.
Oh my god.
It's good writing. So then...
Okay, sorry.
So...
I love this last scene because Reagan knows that it's Mob, and that little smile, he's like, gee, I wonder what's going on.
Right. And
I don't think we've said yet.
It's hot.
It's hot.
It's hot. Reagan's hot.
Reagan's fucking sexy.
In this scene, and how he, like, just picks up the mic and is like, focus on finding your next
I don't
story.
think that was in the manga where he, like, literally picked up one of the microphones and was like, oh, you can focus on finding your next story.
Mic drop.
Whoa.
It's so fucking...
It's good.
It's good.
So that was fantastic. Then the end credit scene. So I guess, like, looking forward to this episode, I thought that they might put this over the end credits, but I wasn't sure if they would because it is such a big scene to lay the credits on top of.
Yeah.
And usually they do that with sort of smaller scenes. But it worked so well.
Yes.
Because the song, they sort of have this alternate, like, maybe more, like, serious ending song called Grey.
Yeah.
That's
I really like.
Perfect. And, like, look up the lyrics in in English because they're beautiful.
It is.
And it worked so well.
Yes. Oh, God. Something I really love that they kept from, like, and people noticed this right when the preview dropped, but, like, that they kept the fact that Reagan and Mav aren't looking at each other in this scene, that they have their backs to each other.
It's so them, like, it kind of speaks to, like, the way this conversation is, where, like, they've never spoken about, like, anything, like, their relationship is so just, like, built on kind of, like, subtext, and they've never really explicitly, like stated like the nature of their relationship,
right?
And the scene is, like, pretty close to doing that, but it's still, like, there's a lot of subtext, and there's, like, it's a very simple scene. Yes. And I think like the way that the anime did it hit me a lot harder than in the manga.
Oh, it was just okay, so, you know, Reagan just is like, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, no reason. And Reagan just like looks up to the sky and is like, do you know? And Mob's like,
and his voice cracks when he's like, do you know?
Yeah, and he's like, Mob's like, know what? And he's like, well, you've seen what they've been saying about me. And Mob says, I've known from the beginning. And you can
that gasp.
Reagan gasps, and he like the fluidity on his emotions where he kind of turns like a little bit, and like. Right, and you can see him shaking because he thinks, he's sure this is the end. Like, Mob saved his ass one last time.
Like, this is the last, this is like one last, you know, gesture, right, and then they're done.
Right, exactly.
Because Mob knows the truth now.
Exactly, and why would he stick around if he knows the truth? But Mob hits him with, he's a good guy. Throwing his own words back at him.
Yeah, so the subs, like the English subs, were a little bit different between those two scenes. Where in the flashback scene, Reagan says, like, become a good person, that's all. Yeah. And then Mob says here, he is a genuinely good guy. But the phrase in Japanese is the exact same. It's iyatsu, which is just like a good guy, basically. Yeah. And I had one of my friends kind of like look into this, and she said in her experience as like a Japanese speaker is that it seems like the kind of phrase that Mob as a character might not like typically use, because it's sort of like not exactly slang but sort of a more like casual phrase. So that she thought it really seemed like Mob was purposefully using the exact phrase that he used 3 years ago. And that's always how I took it, because in the manga, in the version of the manga that I read, it was like a good person, and it was in quotes. It had quotations about it, so it was very clearly supposed to be like the exact same phrase that he used, which is just speaks volumes.
Right, because not only does that show Reagan that Mob really believes in him, but it also shows Mob takes everything Reagan says to heart.
I was ranting about this on Tumblr earlier this week, but like Mob, like, that's so much of their relationship. He takes everything Reagan says to heart. He does. And, like, up until now, that has only backfired on Reagan. Like, it's always manifested in Mob either being like, wait, that doesn't quite add up, or, you know, Reagan says too much in last episode, and he's like, oh, can we forget that I said that, basically? And Mob's like, no, we can't, because I've already, like, taken it to heart. Right. Like, he's, like, replaying, like, Reagan's words in his head and going, oh, you know, you haven't grown up, and he's just, like, fixating on the exact words that he said. So, like, seeing that he's using his words in a way that finally, I don't know what I'm trying to articulate here.
No, I get you.
Yeah, in a way that doesn't backfire on Reagan. Yeah.
And, like, Reagan, and it just,
like, to show that he cares about him and that he listens to him.
Right. And, like, Reagan, like, I don't know, it's just, it's a lot, and Reagan finally gets that, like, satisfaction, or, like, knowing that, like, Mob actually sees him as, like, a genuinely good person. And as we kind of touched on, it doesn't matter whether or not, at this point, it doesn't matter whether or not Mob does or doesn't know that Reagan's a fraud. What matters is he's been there for Mob when he couldn't turn to anybody else for his psychic powers and for anything else, really. And just Reagan's, oh my God.
And I think another thing that adds more, you know, bittersweetness to this is that Reagan, I don't think he doesn't think he deserves this.
Right, he doesn't think he deserves this apology.
He wants to believe Mob, but, like, it really shows in chapter 100 when he says, like, my true identity, when he's like when he confesses, like, oh, I've been using you and lying to you, this is my true identity. Like, that's also an exact callback to this conversation where Mob said, no, your true identity is a good person. Right. And Reagan's like, no, that's not true. My true identity is a fraud.
Right.
Like, that's what Reagan thinks.
It's like Reagan really needs Mob to just kind of yell at him. Like, you've lied to me. He needs Mob to tell him this.
Honestly, Reagan needs closure. And I think that's why he, like, asked him, because he could have ignored it. But I think, like, you know, he could have just walked out there and been like, hey, you want to go get ramen? But he, like, was like, oh, have you heard about me? I think he really wanted Mob to address it. But, like, Reagan needs to address it himself.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
Like, Reagan was kind of too cowardly to, like, bring it up And like, it's not, I mean, after everything, he kind of just needed a break, but in this arc, but eventually he does need to tell him the truth.
Yeah.
Even though Mom already knows, they need to say it out loud in words.
Right.
And that's what's so important about the end. But
God. And he's like on the verge of tears and then smiling and
oh my God. Wait, that was my favorite Tumblr post that I made this week, because I like the screen cap where Reagan is sort of like on the verge of tears, and I'm like, oh, this is giving us a hint of how Bones will animate Reagan crying for real when it's time for that. So I made this really kind of ominously phrased post like that, and a bunch of anime onlys in the tags were like, when it's time for that?
What are you
talking about, OP? Yeah. What do you mean? And I was like, oh you know.
You know. It's like that.
That thing in Griffin McElroy. Oh, you know.
Yeah. God.
That was hilarious.
And then Mob wishes Reagan a happy birthday. And,
I just read that.
Oh, it's okay. And they're like, you don't see anything, but Reagan's shadow just steps a little closer to Mob's, and it's
good.
I'm sorry, I love them so much.
Oh my God, I know, I'm so emotional. Wow, fantastic episode.
Wow, I mean,
just fantastic.
Yeah. It's really good. Probably my favorite episode, honestly.
Yeah, I would say my favorite episode. Like, I've rewatched this one more during the week than I've rewatched any of the other new episodes this season, where I've just felt like every day I've had to watch it again.
Bones just really encapsulated like Mob and Reagan's dynamic really well, and their animation for it just shows how much they care for this series. Yeah. And I don't know, they really showed how well they can adapt something into another medium. It's beautiful. So next week, we're finally getting the infamous Tsubomi's consultation omake. Finally. I feel like it's probably going to be at the beginning of the episode, and it's a really nice a follow-up to Separation arc. Yeah. Since in the omake, the reason why Mob isn't at work is because it's Musashi's birthday. Yeah. So it's like such a direct parallel to episode 6, where it's like, oh, instead of having to come to work on your friend's birthday, you actually get to go and celebrate a friend's birthday. You don't have to come here. Right. Mob is like, can I go to my friend's birthday
and
party?
Reagan's like, yes,
Reagan's like
please,
getting flashback.
Please.
He's like, yes, please go.
It's like, yes, go.
Yeah, and he's
don't
like,
say another word.
But Mob is like, are you gonna ruin the business again? Are you gonna drive the business into the ground again?
Like, I'm gonna send not one but 2 of my Esper friends to help you.
Yeah. He's like, he does it like nonchalantly. He's like, Teru and Ritsu decided to help, and he's like, Reagan's like, oh, they don't have to do that. He's like, apparently they do.
Apparently they do.
Because the last time I left you for like a week, you like drove the business into the ground.
You literally destroyed your reputation.
So no, they're gonna help you.
And
we're gonna see the nice photo.
Yeah. So my theory about how this photo that we saw in the PV of them, I think, and I don't remember if this was in the omake or not. But
she does see the photo.
Okay, she does see the photo. Okay. Yeah. Well, anyway, so she's gonna see the photo, which I couldn't remember if that was in it or not, but like. Yeah, just kind of an extra scene at this point of the season to kind of like remind audiences about Tsubomi and kind of keep like stringing us along for that. Which is like, since she is so important to like the resolution of the series.
Right, which is like more so than they did in season 1, because in season 1 I think she's like in 1 or 2 episodes, and she's only in the back.
She barely has. Yeah, and that's kind of how the manga is too.
Yeah, the manga is like that too.
We don't really see much of her for real.
Yeah. Tsubomi's one of those characters where I kind of wish she got some more growth, but she does get some more. Yeah. Like, and then there's also that one scene. When is that scene?
I think I know. Like when she like sneezes. That's in like.
Is that in Broccoli?
That's like right before Broccoli arc.
Yeah. You're right. Because I was just rereading through that part. Yeah. So we get some instances, but
and that's like the first time we like really ever see them like interact at the current age that they are. Yeah. Which is interesting to see that.
Yeah, it is right before Broccoli, because Mob is like, oh my god, all these girls are talking to me. I'm popular.
Like, I'm popular.
He's like, I'm popular. But anyway, Teru and Ritsu tie.
Teru and Ritsu.
We actually see Teru and Ritsu like
we get to see
for more
2 boys.
2 good. We get to see 3 good boys.
3 good boys. Well, 2 good boys and show
and 1 fiery boy. He's gonna commit arson.
Oh wait, before we get into Showtime, Marathon arc, Reagan's short shorts.
Bones is gonna go wild.
Bones is gonna go wild.
Bones has like a calendar, and it's like, oh my god, guys, next week it's like short shorts week.
I can't
wait to see Reagan's thighs like animated.
His thighs.
Oh my god. And then it's showtime, babes. I can't wait to see.
I'm really excited. I've been trying to think about where this episode will cut off, and I think it will cut off like right at 100% tenacity.
I think so
when he's like, I will find whoever did this.
Right.
Just because I think they have to kind of push things along as much as they can. But there's like a slight chance it could end like just when he sees the smoke rising from the direction of his house. But I think it'll go farther.
I feel like it'll end at tenacity because I think it'll give the same feeling as like in season 1 when you're like, oh shit, Reagan's dead. Because, oh my god, when I got to this part in the manga, I literally had to put my phone. I was like, holy shit, Mom, no. And I was like, Mom, my son, you don't have to deal with this. And then they kept reading. I was like, oh, it's okay.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. They're fine. They're just dummies.
They're fine now.
I do like how Dimple is like, they're just dummies. And he's like, they are dummies, right?
Right.
The whole little thing of like Reagan and Dimple being like, wait, is his family dead? Is
like, so,
they're like, and then when they find out that they're okay, they're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. They were like, Dimple says something. He's like, we were really betting on that, aren't we?
And
Reagan's like, shut up. I can't wait for
man. So yeah, we're really getting into world domination arc at this point. I still don't know whether this season's going to be 12 or 13 episodes. I've like barely seen any sources for that.
Yeah.
So
I don't think our man Sarazawa will be in next week, but he's for sure going to be in the next episode after that.
The very first glimpse of him will be in episode 9. Yeah. Can't believe we're already this far into the season.
Holy shit, we are. Wow.
It's wild.
It is wild. It's good.
I'm not sure how long we've been talking, but I'm sure it's been a long time.
Showtime next week.
Showtime!
Burn your friend's house to the ground.
In preparation.
Commit arson.